Hello, I'm Michael Finn, holistic exercise and lifestyle coach, and today I'm going to show you 3 stretches to help open up the hips and the low back, especially for those people that do a lot of sitting. So the muscles in the front of the hips and the muscles in the low back tend to get pretty tight when we spend lots of time sitting in a chair, as well as because the abdominal wall shuts off. And we really need to have those muscles opened up so our body and our pelvis can function correctly, and we can actually use all the muscles that we're supposed to use when we're walking or running or bending or pushing or twisting or anything else. So today I'm going to show you the 3 most stretches, the 3 most important stretches to loosen those muscles up. So we're going to start off with stretching out the hip flexor. Okay, and with all of these, what I really want you thinking about is we're going to be stretching the whole fascial bag that the muscle is actually in. So it's not just the muscle we're stretching, but we're stretching the fascia so we can open up and get fluid in there so that the muscle becomes more hydrated and will loosen up. So when we're going to stretch this, we want to think about trying to actually lengthen and decompress the joints too. So we're going to be in this position here, and I'm going to want you thinking about trying to reach your knee into the floor and trying to reach your hip away from the floor, and then trying to reach your spine away from your hip, so that you're really trying to also thinking about lengthening this way. So this is going to take some practice. I typically tell people that once you start doing a really new stretch that's really good for you, and when you practice it every day, it's going to take about 2 weeks to get really good at it. So because you're going to be able to get farther and farther into it. All right. So we're going to start here. We want this foot should not be perfectly. It shouldn't be over here. It shouldn't be coming out this direction. Okay. We want to have that foot out to the side over there so that the hip's a little bit internally rotated. It's going to help get a better stretch. And then we're going to want to tuck the hips all the way under. I'm going to do this both from the I'm going to start from the side first, and then we'll do it on the front as well. Okay, so I'm going to start on this side. So that foot's a little bit out to the side. We're going to tuck those hips all the way under. So you're really going to use this glute. The other great thing about the stretches I teach you to use muscles that are going to stretch the muscles here. So you're going to fire that glute. You're going to pull up with your low abs so that you really have that tucked under there. Once you have that tuck, I like the hand there on the hip so that you can feel your pelvis. And also be thinking about reaching up with your spine with really good posture. Then we're going to slide forward as much as we can while you maintain that tuck. So you have to keep that tuck. As soon as you start losing your pelvic tilt, you can't go that far. You have to maintain that tilt all the way under, keeping that there. That way you get the stretch through here. And then you want to think about keeping that, get the stretch, reach the knee into the floor, reach the hip away from the ground, reach the spine all the way up. You even want to try to stretch this out. We don't want to arch this. We actually want to make it as tall and as long as we can, because this hip flexor attaches up behind the belly button. So if you arch your low back, you're relieving the stretch. You'll see people do this stretch like this. They're not really stretching out the hip flexor. So they'll get some of the bottom fibers, but they're not getting the top fibers, which are typically the really tight ones that need to be stretched. So you've got to think about lengthening this lumbar spine. All right? So in through there. I'm sure all of you have been holding this for a little bit, so we're just going to take a couple of breaths. And then we'll switch over to the other side. So typically I recommend 6 breaths once you get into the stretch and you feel the stretch. And if you get in there and sometimes you don't feel it right away, but you don't start feeling it until like the 4th breath, well, start your counting back at 1 and then go from there. So tuck the hips all the way under. Make sure that foot's out to the outside. Tuck the hips under as much as you can. Hold that tuck as you slide forward. Then reach that knee down into the floor. Reach the hip up away from the floor. Make the spine nice and tall and long. Okay, I'm resting my hands out here primarily so I can kind of engage the lower abs and my abdominal muscles a little bit to try to lengthen my spine. And then big breaths. In through the nose, fill that belly all the way up, stretch that spine with the breath. And relax into the stretch with each breath. One more breath on this side. Good, and then we'll relax that side, and then we'll go back over to the other side. This time I'll do it from the front so that you can see it from the front. So we're going to bring this foot out here. That foot's going to be out to the side again, all right? Tucking the hips all the way under, okay? The other thing you can do that sometimes adds is you can shift just a teeny little bit away from the knee that you're on, okay? And if this is uncomfortable for your knees, pad it up. You know, put a pillow down there, get 5 yoga mats, whatever it takes. But this really helps to open everything up. So tuck the hips, slide them forward, keep the tuck. Lengthen that spine. Big breaths, big inhale, stretch everything up. Try to reach the knee into the floor. And levitate your hips and your spine away from the floor. Really lengthening the muscle. And relaxing into it with every breath. One more breath. Proper stretching is a lot more like a yoga meditation than it is anything else. You want to hold them, breathe, and if once you do this every day and you get really good at it and you get the muscles loosened up, you can do it like once every 3 days and you'll be all good. It will last for long periods of time unless you do big workouts and create tension. So now let's go foot out to the side there. Tuck those hips all the way under, fire that glute, fire the low ab, pull everything up. Make everything as long as you possibly can. Slide that forward. Feel how far you can go. Keeping that tuck. Reach that knee down. Elevate everything else up. Big inhale. Big exhale. Really reaching that knee down. Really elevating the hips up. One more time. Good. Stretching these 3 muscles also helps with the whole pelvic tilt problem. If people have an anterior pelvic tilt like this, or they stand like this a lot, this will also really help to fix that. Watch my other video on proper pelvis position. Alright, then the next one, we want a wall or a piece of furniture, or you can use a ball. I like the wall because we get the most out of it, because you have something really solid to push into. And we're going to stretch the rectus femoris, which is the top quad muscle up here. You might feel it down lower as well, but primarily you're going to feel it up here. Right? And this gets really tight on people that sit a lot. In fact, some people, it's like, we just got to stretch this constantly because they just sit too much, especially at the desk. And so we want to have the foot up on the wall behind us, okay? And I'm going to show you a little bit here on this ball first. So what this looks like from the side. So that your foot would actually be like that. You don't want it up like this. You want to actually create tension. Once again, remember we're stretching the whole fascial bag. So because of that, we want to put tension in the fascial bag, and the fascial bag runs all the way into your shin. So we need to have the foot in the proper placement up on the wall. All right, see if I can get that ball to stay. Okay, so we're gonna go with the foot up on the wall with the toes down, okay? And the knee is close to the wall as you comfortably can be, all right? Once again, we're gonna tuck those hips under by squeezing the glute, pulling up with the low ab. We're also going to, once again, reach the knee down into the floor, elevate the hips, elevate the spine, all right? And then breathe. Big inhales, big exhales. Now, if you're getting pretty good at this, you can reach around behind and you can grab onto your ankle and lift yourself up and try to keep pushing the knee down and pulling your body up as you try to pull your glutes gently back towards your heel, okay? Stretching shouldn't be painful, but you might feel a little bit of burning. A little bit of burning is okay, but it should relax with your breath. This isn't about ripping things, this is about learning new positions for the muscles. Every breath you should open up a little bit more. I'm getting a little taller and a little closer to my heel every time I exhale. Just naturally, I'm not trying. It's just naturally opening up. And then let's switch over to the other side. So the Golgi tendon organ in the muscle will actually help the muscle relax a little bit and calm the muscle down. So this is great to do before exercise. If you have an anterior pelvic tilt or you've been sitting a lot before you start exercising, really important to do this. Okay, reach that knee down, really lift the hip up, really extend the spine as much as you can. You can see on this side I'm not nearly as tight. I have less scar tissue in this leg because I'm already almost back on my heel. Really tuck, really think about firing the glute as much as you can. Squeeze that glute, draw the belly button in a little bit, it helps a little bit too. Use those low abs. Reach that spine up towards the ceiling. One more breath. Great, let's go one more time on each side. I highly recommend in the beginning you do 3 times on each side. You will find that it continues to open up more and more and more so that you really open up and hydrate the muscle. Every time you get into a stretch, little droplets of water can fall into the gaps that you're making in the muscle. And so then when you switch over to the other side, the muscle closes up and all that water gets pumped into the muscle, and then you switch back over and now that muscle is more hydrated and it will open up a little bit more so that you can get deeper and deeper into the stretch. And really hydrate the muscle. That's so important. Our muscles are mostly water, and if we don't drink enough water, our muscles become dry and stiff and they don't function properly, which typically leads to joint pain and joint problems. And if you're like me, I have a lot of scar tissue in the front side of this hip, so it's tighter. I always do this right side an extra time, or sometimes 2 extra times more than I do on the left. I typically always start with my right side because I know it's tighter, and I finish with my right side. One more time here. And if you're worried about the myths that stretching makes you possibly injure yourself or turn the muscle off and then it won't work for when you're exercising, that's a big myth. If you read the whole study, it takes about 10 seconds of just like moving around, doing a couple jumping jacks, hopping in place like 3 times, and that muscle will be right back on. So that's why if you watch track and field, since I'm a big track and field fan because I do it myself, so big full breaths in here, really tuck everything under, really reach everything up. If you watch sprinters, you'll see them kind of stretching at the starting line, kind of loosening everything up, keeping everything really loose. Big breaths, reach that spine up towards the ceiling. And then you'll see them bouncing and jumping and things like that to wake all the muscles up and wake their nervous system up before they get in the blocks and run the race. So the stretching and the holding of the stretching is not bad. It's just plain and simply you just turn them back on, and like I said, it takes 10 seconds to turn them back on. They're like right back in there again. How about one more breath here? Big inhale, stretch everything up. And then relax there. All right, so that's rectus femoris. That's where you should be feeling the stretching through there at the top. And then the last one, I'm going to show it 2 different ways. I'll do it one way the first time, and the second time I'll do it a different way. So one time it's nice. A lot of people are so tight that they have a difficult time getting into this position without sitting up on something. So sitting up on a bench, or you can use a ball or a little chair. With this one, you typically want something fairly low. It's actually easier if you get something a little bit lower. And we're going to be stretching the very deep low back or lumbar muscles in through here primarily, okay? Because these will also get really tight. People will even get frozen in this position when they're sitting and they're sitting at their desk. You will find when you bend forward, this part of your back will still stay flat. It won't round out, okay? If that's the case, look for some of my other videos on mobilizing and repairing the whole spine, as well as my whole core conditioning lessons. Look for those because that will end up fixing that problem and getting that problem better and better so that you don't have disc problems and degenerative disc problems and everything else. So same thing here, we want to think about lengthening, and primarily here we're going to be lengthening our spine, so we want to try to push our tailbone down this way while we're trying to bring our chest and our head and even our chin all the way down, because the fascial band is attached onto the back of the skull, and then it's attached back down here on your SI joint. So we need to try to stretch those 2 points. So it's really great if you reach in and grab the arches of your feet or the balls of your feet, whatever works good for you. And that way you can kind of push with your legs a little bit. So I'm pushing with my heels into the floor, and I'm trying to roll my hips backwards towards that step. I'm trying to roll my hips back that direction, while at the same time I'm using my arms to resist and trying to gently pull my chest and my neck and my head down. Now, if you have issues with a bulging disc, or if you have a herniated disc, this is not a good stretch to do. So if this actually causes pain, do not do this. Alright? So you need to seek out somebody like myself, a Czech practitioner, or a really good physio or physiotherapist, and they can fix that problem for you, but it's going to take a while. So, and then once we're here, big breaths. And every time you inhale, really try to push down with the tailbone, try to reach that out, try to extend this part of your spine as you inhale. And then exhale and relax down into it. Big inhale, big exhale. See how much I can drop down into that. I'm going to go one more breath. Big inhale, big exhale. Good, and then coming up from there, Make sure to watch these videos multiple times, maybe practice for a few days, then come back so you make sure you get all the finer points, because you will be able to hit it more and more each time. Roll that over there. So the other way you can do this is you can also do this on the floor, or even up on a step like this, okay? And with this, it might be a little bit tougher for people, but for those that have the flexibility already, you can actually get a good stretch this way as well, all right? So notice my legs are bent. We don't want the legs straight, okay? We want the legs bent in through here. We want to reach in, grab those legs. Even if there's something out in front of you, like I've got a bar sometimes, and I'll put a bar right here, and I'll hold on to the bar, and then I got my feet on the bar. But even through here, I push those heels, try to roll that tailbone back down towards the floor here, back towards that step. And I use my upper body to pull in through, pulling my chest down and my head down, keep that chin tucked. Really try to reach out through the top of the head, then reach down through the tailbone. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling. And once again, don't cause pain, don't get crazy with it. Stretching is something we need to do every day. And over time, you will get more and more flexible. This is why people show up to yoga class one time and then they quit, because it's like you're not going to get good in one day. You're going to get good over 6 months. Which means you need to do it every day for 6 months. One more big breath. Alright, so, and then you can do a little cat-cow just to kind of move that spine around, and when you do that cat rounding up, focus on rounding up this part of your spine, okay, but moving that spine around, pumping a little bit of fluid in there, see how that feels, loosen it up, big inhale as you go into the cow, big exhale as you go up into the cat, big inhale into that cow, and a big exhale into the cat. Alright, so 3 simple little stretches: hip flexor, rectus femoris, lumbar spine. Okay, those things get really tight when we're in that folded up seated position for long periods of time. So 3 times each side, big breathing, at least 6 breaths, deep as you can, in through the nose, out through the mouth, filling the tummy up, stretching that spine, always thinking about making your body as long as possible. Alright, please subscribe. Put a like on there if you really like this. Put some comments. Send me an email if there's other things you really want help with. And I will create more videos for you. I hope all of you have a happy and healthy, lovely day.